don't want to share the profits with the workers. That's the dilemma. But they have to share it sooner or later because the communists will take over.
Right, so if it's not done peacefully, it will be done with violence.
Yeah, that's right.
Or
so when you take a look at China,
what you preach too, that it's done peacefully.
So when you take a look at China and Russia, 10% of the populations are the military, and another 10% of the population are the super bureaucrats. The 20% till the 80%.
Okay.
In specific terms, don't step over the line. Otherwise, you get so there's little freedom.
Well, wait for the introduction.
But in the capitalistic system,
wait for the introduction
you got 1%, which holds 50% of all the wealth, and the 1%, the 99%, you got all the freedom in the world. You're also free to be hungry. Right. So they
have been attracted to the campaign in some side or another, or you're a candidate, and in my opinion, we have become part of an extended network of good people that want to make a difference in the world, and this is also how I ran into Frank Stronach, and the rest is history. So Ivana, maybe you can take it from here.
Welcome René de Vries here at Frank's Organic Garden. René is a candidate who represents the kind of leadership our community truly needs. René de Vries is an environmental geoscientist and entrepreneur with over 35 years of international environmental consulting experience. René entered an active political role with the PPC in 2021 when he first ran in his riding and finished in 4th place. René brings a rare blend of experience, integrity, and vision, qualities that are too often missing in today's politics. He understands the real challenges that families, workers, and small business owners face, and is committed to practical solutions that will make a meaningful change. René believes that we need real change in Canada and sees the importance of bringing Canada back onto a strong economic footing. René has pledged to support the Canadian Economic Charter of Rights as proposed by Frank Stronach, an initiative that is critical to bringing Canada back to the fertile economic grounds we once had. Frank Stronach, through an economic charter, is on a mission to eliminate poverty in Canada. Frank Stronach came to Canada with a few dollars in his pocket, started a business in a rented garage as a one-man operator, and built his company to a business with over 180,000 employees, 44 factories in 34 different countries. Through the implementation of the fair enterprise system, Frank Stronach was able to unleash untold potential in his employees and grow Magna exponentially. The fair enterprise system laid the foundation for the Canadian Economic Charter. The Canadian Economic Charter is the only solution for a prosperous future for Canadians. Mr. Stronach could have chosen to live anywhere, but he chose Canada. And at 92 years young, Mr. Stronach has made it his mission to eliminate poverty and bring prosperity back to Canada. I would like to ask everyone to take a look at the Canadian Economic Brochure. At the back, you will see a QR code as well as our website, economiccharter.ca. And I ask you to sign up as an ambassador. It is free of charge, and the only thing that we ask is that you spread the message of the Canadian Economic Charter. It is truly the only way that we can get back on a proper trajectory in Canada. Before I welcome Mr. Stronach to speak, I'd like to invite you to take a look at the screen behind me for a short biographical video on Mr. Frank Stronach.
At the age of 21, Frank Stronach arrived in Canada with one small suitcase and not much else. Today, he's changed the way cars are made, and along the way, reinvented the sport of horse racing.
I'm a great believer in luck. The harder I work, the more luck I have.
Sure, he had no more than a few $100s in his pocket, but he had skill, savvy, and a vision.
In my early years, I had no great philosophies. My only drive was never to be hungry anymore.
In 1957, Frank opened his first small factory in Toronto. Times were tough, and he didn't get his first car contract until 1960, an order for 300,000 sun visor brackets. He never looked back.
Do I respect him as a businessman? Absolutely. I respect anybody that starts out sleeping on the bench in the garage.
This is not an easy business, and to build upon success, this is not something you see every day.
Understanding of people and what motivates people. He, says, look, using common sense, what would motivate me?
You know the magnet culture, right? Nobody works for me. You people work with me. I'm working for you.
The roots of the magnet culture began when Frank introduced a profit-sharing plan in his factories. He calls it fair enterprise. Wall Street calls it Frank Stronach's success formula.
The history of mankind has always been done.
Sorry, our Wi-Fi seems to have cut out.
Maybe because we're using it for this.
That's like the golden rule. Here's the golden rule. But I don't want to be dominated by anyone. If I feel that strong, I should not be able to dominate somebody either.
And that's why Frank created a corporate constitution and an employee's charter that are unique in the world of business. In 1960, Frank bought his first horse. And today he's one of the world's leading thoroughbred owners.
Frank, you and Magnet have created so many jobs for people around the world, and in the process have enriched so very many communities. I'm proud to know you. I'm proud of our friendship. I'm proud of the vision you've displayed throughout your business career.
In 1995, Frank was inducted into the Canadian Business Hall of Fame. In 1998, his horse Awesome Again won the Super Bowl of horse racing, the Breeders' Cup. In 1999, he was awarded the Order of Canada. In 2004, he donated $8 million to the local hospital for Aurora and Newmarket, Ontario, and once again won the Breeders' Cup with Ghost Zapper. Today, that young tool and die maker who came to Canada 50 years ago is a respected entrepreneur, a community leader, and the premier player in the sport of kings. And along the way, he's done it all his way.
Over $500 million has been raised to help the victims of Hurricane Katrina. Many Canadians have opened up their wallets, including Canadian auto giant mogul Frank Stronach, the founder of Magna. Yesterday, he headed down to Florida to meet with the hundreds of people he's helping by providing them with accommodations at his horse training facility, Palm Meadows.
I can't think of a better guy or a bigger mensch than my friend Frank Stronach. You and Magna have done so much for communities and charities around the world. Congratulations once again.
I sometimes say, I'm not quite sure yet when I grow up what I will do, There's a lot of pride when you start something from scratch. So you want to look down the road and say, I hope you've put the right foundations in that this company will carry on for the next few hundred years.
Okay. Yeah, great. So, we'd like to hear your story first, and then I'll add to that, and then we'll get into a bit of a bar-side chat. There's also a few candidates here that have a bit of things to say, but your story started here, that in this restaurant with me at least, and you invited me a few times to talk about things, and how do we improve Canada? And we overlap a lot with the PPC and with the Economic Charter, and this is how we started talking. And I think it's great to get your guidance. I already thank you for, guiding the way and shining a light for us. Also, yes, I agree with you. If there's no money, it's hard to do much, and you show that how to do it from an entrepreneurial perspective. From that side, I must say, you were in your 30s, I think, when you came to Canada, right? Or early 20s?
Early 20s.
Early 20s. So we have a lot in common. I was also early 20s when I came here, and we have similar stories in that sense. Although I was not as successful, obviously, as you have been. I was successful in my own career of environmental consulting, but I think it's important that we show people how the private sector works, how we can translate that success to the government, because that's definitely needed. At this point, it's a mess in government, in my opinion, and good people in government and people with good business experience need to step up to make the change that we all want. And that's really what the PPC is about, in my opinion. And a voice like yours lends great credibility, so I'm grateful that you can do that for us, and maybe you can tell us your perspective on this. How do we improve the situation?
Okay, great. First of all, I've met René over the last year a few times, and he left a good impression on me, and I try to tell people in your voting district, if I would live in your district, I would vote for you.
Well, thank you very much.
And there were some other reasons too, because the People's Party is more open to change and to adopt new measurements. So that's another reason, right? Personally, I try to be non-political because I think I could serve the country more by focusing on the economy. When we are younger, we all hustle a bit to make some monies, you know, so we can live in dignity. And you know, I created about over 400 factories in 34 different countries. I could have lived in any one of those countries, but I chose Canada, right? And it's a great, great country. And I remember when I came in 1954, I had $200 in my pocket. And then 4 years later, you know, I rented a small garage, and I had $5,000 saved up in the 3 years, in 57. And $5,000 were a lot of money in 54. You could buy a small house, a small farm, or a condo, but I rented a small building, and I bought a few used machines, and out I went hustling. I put a sign on my building, tool and die making, open for business. I didn't need a permit. I just, you know, I didn't need a permit for many years, right? But out I went hustling. I worked in a factory, and I said, I'm very good in solving problems. If I don't solve the problem, they don't have to pay me. So obviously I solved some problem, because after 1 month I hired somebody. After a year I had about 10 people. After 2 years, 20. And the first evolution sets in, right? Because I think it's very important, because it's difficult to understand how can a person hire 180,000 employees, because most of it was internal growth, right? We made very few acquisitions, right? So anyway, after 20 employees, I noticed my foreman was a little different. His name was Herman, a German fella. I said to him, Herman, what's the matter with you lately? You know, well, he says, I'm thinking of starting my own business. I said, I'll sympathize with that. I said, let's talk tomorrow. Maybe we can come up with a better answer. So that evening I was talking to myself. I said, if that foreman's got to leave me, that would stifle my growth. No good for me. The next reason I liked even less, if I hire a new foreman and I don't show him everything here, then I still get to do all the work. And if I would hire a foreman, show him how business is run, after 1 or 2 years he will want to start his own business. To make a long story short, the next day I said to him, look, why don't we open up a new factory on 1/3 and 2/3? He said, you mean it? So I say, I mean it. So we went right away to a lawyer, wrote it down, and the guy was hustling. That was his factory, right? Then over the next few years, I took 6 more foremen, right? The same thing, all of a sudden at about 7 factory, I was still a young guy. Money's coming, I like incredible cash flow. I became a little philosophical. I remember days when I was hungry not because I wanted to lose weight, I was hungry, I had not enough money to buy food. If you experience that thing, years ago, I become philosophical and say, gee, if I'm going to get the employees involved too, I might even be able to create more. So I transferred my private company to a public company, put in a corporate constitution where it says the workers get 10% of the profits over and above their salary. The first year when I put that charter in place, our profits were up 40%. The second year, 100%. The third year, 200%. I mean, it just, when you engage in workers in a tangible way and you let them share, you trigger an energy of under proportion because they're on the front line, okay? They see things, how things made better. Society came a long way, you know, from the caveman to the hunted, to the kings and the servants. And now basically what we have is we got bosses and disgruntled employees. That's our problem, right? The reason I could grow that, I treated the employees as partners. I put in various programs. We had the most advanced human resource program where we could not only audit the financial capital, we could audit the human capital, right? I put in hotlines. If something isn't right, people could call a hotline without giving their names, and because if something isn't right, if that creates unhappiness, if we get unhappy employees, there's no way you can make a quality product at a competitive price. So we had a very unique system, and as I got older, you know, I got a little more philosophical. I have a farm close by here, you know, when on the weekends, when I went for a walk into the forest, I sat down on a stone or a tree stump and I said, gee, life's been great to me. I've been blessed with incredible good health and a good mind. But at the same time I say, it doesn't matter how smart you are. If the stars are not aligned, it won't work. Huh? But again, when you get older, I look in the mirror, and I was on the board on quite a few universities, on the board of directors, and I think eight universities. I gave a lot of lectures from Harvard right across the States, right across Canada, right across Europe. And so a number of years ago, I looked in the mirror and I was critical about myself. I said, Frank, you've been on the board of universities. What contribution did you make, you know? Because universities, the mandate of a university is to teach young people how can we have a more civilized society, right? Because universities have got great faculties in regards to technologies, medicine, the arts, etc. But surprisingly, very little on humanity, okay? Universities would be the ideal places where we could experiment. What structure do we need which would lead to an ideal society? There's no blueprint. Okay? So anyway, I started to say, gee, the knowledge I accumulated shouldn't be lost to Canadian people, right? So I really made an effort then, put everything down, and tried to bring ideas forward. No chainsaw approach, no thing, no pointing fingers whose fault it is. Okay, but anyway, if something isn't right in your personal life, or in business, or in the country, you should know you got a problem. If you don't know you got a problem, you really got a problem. I think Canada's really got a problem now, because I'm saying the economy is the most important thing. It's the economy, the economy, the economy, the economy. If the economy doesn't function, nothing else will function. And all business people and all politicians agree. If the economy doesn't function, nothing else will function. If the economy doesn't function, you know, you cannot look after you cannot feed the hungry, you cannot look after the most fragile people, the elderly, the sick, the handicapped. But interestingly, we do not talk what drives the economy, the most important subject. What are we going to tell our kids with the trillions of debt we have? How can we pay it back? Okay, so it's the economy. The economy is driven by three forces: smart managers, hardworking employees, and investors. The message what I want to get across loud and clear is, without workers you can't make a profit. So it's only fair workers have them all right. If we would do that, we could eliminate poverty. Okay, that's what the real issue. It's poverty, right? But the world has always been dominated by the golden rule. The people which have the gold or the monies make the rules. You don't see the kings no more, or the very rich. They might live in Hawaii, they might live in Beverly Hills, they might live in Monaco, but they're there. They don't want to share the profits with the working class. The divide gets bigger and bigger, huh? Okay? So it's the capitalistic system basically is self-destroying. The laws of nature are much stronger than any man-made law. In nature, when a species does not reproduce itself, other species will take over. The message I want to get across too is we should not destroy the capitalistic system. It's the best system to create wealth. But the capitalistic system, when it gets larger, when business gets larger, it needs harnessing. So what I recommend, I think on the table there's economic brochures about the economy. I got 7 principles. The first principle, a country should not have debt. Every housewife knows if she spends more than what her husband brings in, they find up in a poor house. Every farmer knows he cannot spend more than what he gets for his crop. Otherwise he loses the farm. Every small business knows they cannot spend more monies than what they make in profits. Otherwise they go broke. Governments don't know. You can't leave the politicians be in charge of the economy. Okay, and don't want to talk to most of them. I know most of them, right? I had from Brian Maroney was on our board of directors, Mike Harris, Bill Davis, and a bunch of liberals, and president of the World Bank. I know them. They're basically decent people, but they are capped in a system where they can't move. Because we have a system when young politicians come in and say, I want to change Canada, I want to get new, the older politicians say, you can't say that. Because otherwise we won't be re-elected, because when you come forward with something new, you can't be criticized, okay? But when you look back in history, and from time to time, that's what we should do is, the foremost politician I call the foremost statesman was Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill in his later years says, God damn it, he says, Parliament doesn't work. There's only politicians in there. The mandate of a politician is to be elected or re-elected. That means, he says, we gotta balance out the politicians. We need a chamber of citizens, okay? But fortunately, he died. He didn't quite get that done. But basically, when I look at that thing, you should learn from. You should take a look. I like to see that small business got to play a greater role in Canada. They will be the chamber of citizens, okay? Because small business has always been the backbone. Small business provided the most jobs, but small business is now handicapped. Huh? They're tied in red tape. It's just they can't move. So basically, trying to tell small business, you got to band together. And if you band together, you can change. You can only bring about change. The timing has to be right. The timing, unfortunately, will be very bad for Canada. The fridges, when the fridges are full, you cannot change things. But the fridge has got to be half empty, right? And a lot of mothers now say, They're worried, how do I feed my kids next week? Huh? So I think because again, the economy doesn't work, right? It gets worse and worse and worse. So small business could bring about, and maybe a few more remarks, about 50 years ago when the first computers came on the market, the slogan was, if you got one of those, you could eliminate a total office floor. When I look around now, there's 20 times more office buildings. What do you do in there? It's all regulations, regulations. We have regulations like we kill it. We get more regulators now than people want to make things. So deformist. But again, no change approach. I'm not saying we should fire the regulators. We should say we should have a hiring freeze. Did we reach the right amount, right? There was a survey done just recently. I got, my memory sometimes isn't that good, but I got 3 countries in my mind. Canada's got 100 bureaucrats per 1,000 people. The United States got 70 bureaucrats per 1,000 people. Japan has 40 bureaucrats per 1,000 people. When I built my first factory 65 years ago, I just put a sign up, tool and die, open for business. I didn't need a permit. You know, when I built another factory that was in Richmond Hill, I got the permit in one day. I looked at a blueprint. They could say I had a qualified engineer, so the building was safe for snow load, wind load. Well, great that you build a factory in a township, there's a stamp, right? That doesn't happen. I'm waiting 3 years now to build a farmer's market. I want to have a restaurant there where we teach mothers to cook organic meals, low priced, for a thing where we can show mothers. We're over-regulated. Okay, so we gotta be civilized. We gotta dismantle the chains in a civilized way. We need a revolution, not a destructive revolution, a revolution of the mind. And the revolution of the mind would be the economic charter. The economic charter has got nothing to do with politics. It's purely economics. And it could get Canada back on a sound economic footing. As I started out to say, the first country must have balanced budgets. A country must have a certain amount of percentages of bureaucrats to the thing here. Number 3 is must have a simple tax system that people understand the tax system. If you can see the tax code, it's a very thick book. There's thousands of paragraphs in there. One paragraph is more convoluted than the other one because why? It benefits special interest groups. So we need a clear-cut tax system. Mm-hmm. If you make more profits, you pay more thing. Number 4, we must not destroy the capitalistic system. Let small business practice totally free enterprise. Free enterprise means without a country without free enterprise won't be a free country, because free enterprise is the foundation for a free society, right? So that's the way Canada operated 50, 60, 70 years ago, right? You hardly need any permits. I'm saying, yes, we need two rules. Workplace safety, we have a rule, and then you cannot dump poison chemicals. But otherwise, we could get rid of all the rules and let small business grow, huh? And then number 5, when small business grows larger, then they got to share the profits with the employees. The number 6 principle is high school should end at grade 10. Grade 11 and grade 12, we should expose students to the trades. That's a win for the students, because any time you accumulate more knowledge, you make more money. It's a win for society because we have less and less tradesmen. So 6, number 7, which is very dear to my heart. No Canadian kid should go to school hungry. That means breakfast got to be served. No Canadian kid should leave the school hungry. That means lunch has got to be served. And by law, the food would have to be organic. But that creates another problem now. Countries which could feed its people never had a problem. Canada, the family farms could feed Canada for many generations. But family farmers are not practical on welfare. kids on family farmers say, Mom, Dad, I don't want to be in farming. I don't want to be in welfare. So we need a family farm foundation where they would get, if they grow organic, they get a higher price, okay? So we need that, and we gotta promote farming. It's the most noble thing to do. We gotta get the kids back into farming, right? So anyway, I hope I provoked your minds a bit with my message, and I'd be very happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
No, that's great. Thank you very much. I will say a few things now, and then after that I want a few of the PPC candidates also to comment on the economics, because I actually named this live stream that is going out right now, and we'll be recording and sending that out also. It's the economy, stupid. Like, that is a reoccurring theme in fact in all sorts of campaigns, and we as a PPC have a platform that is ultimately very much aligned with the economic charter, and for that reason I was also motivated and very supportive of what you're doing, and I will, if I get elected, introduce a motion in the House of Commons to ensure that it gets considered and adopted. And I know a number of other candidates for the PPC have done so, including Maxime Bernier at the event that Patricia had. And yeah, we will advance the knowledge that you have there. And I would like to say that's a gift that we hope to give you to carry that legacy further politically. And yes, you've said that you don't want to make this a political thing, and ultimately it shouldn't be. It should, see, this is one thing that I would like to bring across. There's lots of polarization in politics, which is so disappointing. People start fighting. You could almost say it's done on purpose as a divide and rule kind of mechanism. It should not be controversial that we care about prosperity for our kids and grandkids and their health. This is a point that Robert Kennedy has made consistently as well, and I align with that very much, with that same message. So if we can bring people together around that concept, I think we can start talking. What does that mean in detail? But the basic goal is again, to drive that prosperity forward, and also I add to that, to drive the peace forward that we want. Canada's always been a peaceful country. I had to laugh a little bit when I spoke to Ivona this morning about my idea of bringing a chainsaw in here. He said, no, Frank is, he doesn't like chainsaw. The Canadian way is, bring the change smooth and create it in a smooth way. As a PPC, if we go into a parliament, we as the stormtroopers, let's say, of change, will have a bit of we'll be seen as radicals. We'll be seen as people that come up with ideas to change this. Can we change the system? I believe we can if we focus on the economic message of prosperity for our kids and our grandkids. And me as an environmental guy, I also attach health to that, health for the environment, but also health for the individual. So that's my general message. I want to get into a bit of detailed Q&A, and after that people might have their own questions yet also to say, but for now I'd like to give Patricia, then Vageesh, and Roman, and Mimi the chance to also say a few things.
Thank you, René. Very well said. I was just going to tell people that I am so aligned with what Frank's doing and so appreciative. I've been a lifelong entrepreneur. I started my business just out of university. I have a German literature degree. And I was with a recruiting firm that went bankrupt. The very next day I started my company, Incorporated, started in my bedroom of my parents' house, and then bought a building. A number of years later I had 10 staff. Wonderful, wonderful work. I started noticing, as it was a recruiting firm, that people in the public sector were getting paid more. Used to be in the private sector, you got a higher salary, but you didn't have the pension, and it started to become the opposite, where you got a higher salary in the public sector and a bigger pension. And I saw that we already going down a negative path. We were going against entrepreneurship. And when COVID hit and I lost a lot because I spoke out, I saw that I needed to enter the political sphere because we weren't serving our businesses or economy in the right way. And I ran for the only party that was standing up for the small businesses that were destroyed, that People's Party. I'm also a registered holistic nutritionist. nutritionist, and I lost my husband to safe and effective a number of years ago, prescription pharmaceuticals, and I decided to enter in a pathway of leadership coaching, wellness coaching in my business, wrote 2 books, and I realized we have this large issue of health in Canada as well, mental health issues, physical health issues, high suicide rates with our youth because they don't see a future, but also the food quality itself is low, and so on that point as well, I completely support the economic charter and everything that they're doing to make people healthier as well as more prosperous. And that's really what I say to everyone at the door. That's my commitment, is healthier and prosperous communities, I think, would solve so many problems in our country. And unfortunately, there is only one party that's speaking out against the very harmful health policies, and that's People's Party. The very harmful economic policies that destroyed our small business, that's People's Party. In my riding, York-Durham, which is close to here, there's a lot of farmers, and they are very supportive. We're the only party that will stop net zero, which of course is unachievable, just like net zero COVID was unachievable, and will cause so many unnecessary harms. Supporting the Paris Accord, taking our money out of that, we could actually remediate the soil, air, and water. So there's so many reasons to support People's Party. Some people say, what's the point? It's splitting the vote. We have such a really deep issues in our country that, in my mind, there's only one party that is doing the right thing, and your vote sends a message to Ottawa that we need these bold reforms. I've always, I think, a great quote, if I can find it, from Goethe, who's a wonderful philosopher. Whatever you can do or dream you can do, begin it. Boldness has magic and power in it. And I think for me, I've always been bold, courageous. I'm a martial artist, and I think that's what's really missing in our country now, is people are so afraid to step out of their comfort zones, to try something new, and that's really the only thing we need. If people could step into courage, try something new, commit to this new path economically and politically, I think we could solve a lot of our problems in a short time. We can't just, as Einstein said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. We really can't keep going down this path of red and blue and bloated bureaucracy and band-aid solutions. We have deep issues to face, and without courage, we aren't going to get to the point where we are solving these problems. So hopefully people will start looking at these issues seriously, so we can clean up our air, soil, and water. We can detach from some of these very corrupt treaties like the WHO, WEF, and UN Migration Pact, as People's Party is doing. We can start to support entrepreneurship, and I love the idea with Frank's economic charter of eliminating taxes for small business, because they were unfairly targeted during COVID, and that would be a great way to make up for the damage that's done. So I'm very, very pleased and so delighted that Frank has stepped into this with his wonderful group, and I'm absolutely would introduce this charter if and when elected. So thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Mimi Lee, the Markham Thornhill PPC candidate. I have been a financial advisor for over 20 years. So I have talked to a lot of families and small businesses, and of course, finance is one of the major issues that they have right now because of what we have gone through during COVID. And at the same time, as we have already looked at a lot of other platforms, no other parties has a mind to even think of balancing the budget. And we are the only party that actually have numbers to support how to balance the budget. And this is very, very important for everyone. No matter what the government is going to do, balancing the budget is the first thing to go. Because then we can actually do something meaningful, and you can run your house, as Frank was also saying, is that you can't run your business, you can't run your household with a negative budget. If you keep doing that, we will just going to go bankrupt. And this is a very, very important time in our country that we actually make the right choice. And at the same time, there are ridings that we don't have a PPC candidate. That's very unfortunate. But what we are pushing is that go out and vote still and spoil your ballot. Reject the thing. It will be recorded properly. Even a trend is going to worthwhile. Thank you.
Did you want to say something, Roman, or? Okay. Vageesh, yeah? Sure. Vageesh is the candidate for Vaughan, right?
Yes.
And sorry, I just wanted to mention we do have pledges here. So for any of the candidates who would like to pledge that they will support the Canadian Economic Charter if elected into federal parliament, we'd love for you to sign the pledge.
For sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Stronach, for having us.
Okay.
I highly appreciate it. You mentioned something. You mentioned that individuals will make change when their fridges are half full. I've been canvassing. I'm a dental surgeon, born and raised here, born at a time where hard work, honesty, and integrity took you far in life. My parents instilled in me values, good Canadian values, where you can live a decent life. However, the reason why I have decided to put my name in the hat is because I don't see that opportunity for my children. I do not see that opportunity for the children of my friends, of my colleagues. And what is happening here is fridges are half empty. Choices are being made whether rent should be paid, whether bills should be paid, whether food should be bought, and if so, can we even afford the right food to put on the table? That is the reality out there. But that is not the reality that anybody is acknowledging. That is not the reality the mainstream is portraying. What the mainstream is portraying is there are only two choices you have when you go to the polls. You can either choose red or you could choose blue. What the mainstream is doing is it's muzzling our voice. It is saying to other individuals that if you stand for the truth, if you stand for those values which this nation was built on, well, in fact, you are wrong. You are not part of this social clique. I was at an event last night, approximately 150 people. 150 people. Middle class, upper middle class. They have no issue. All of them I knew in a personal way. Every single person congratulated me. You're brave. You're a dental surgeon. Why do you have to do this? You're making so much money. We're so proud of you. We see your videos on social media. We believe in what you're saying. But then, after having a couple of glasses of wine, they take me to the corner and they say, you know what? We can't vote for you. We love you. We can't vote for you. And I said, why can't you vote for me? Well, we can't vote for you because if we vote for you, we're going to destroy the chances of kicking out one party. And I responded, I go, well, the party that you're choosing, will that represent your values? And their answer was what your answer is right now. Silence. The biggest challenge we are going to face as candidates, as Canadians, as human beings, is how do we spread the message of truth? Whenever someone tries to spread that message, whenever someone tries to take that beacon of hope, they are always ridiculed. They're always pushed down. They're always made to look as though they're the fringe. But today, I leave here, I'm going to leave here with my head high. Perhaps this cycle, we will not win at the ballots, perhaps. However, we have won because we have been brave and bold to speak the truth. We have been bold and brave to say to Canadians, how long are you going to allow these governments to steal from your future generations, your future children, your future grandchildren, the future of this nation to satisfy your feeding frenzy, your spending frenzy of today? When will this end? Unfortunately, Mr. Stronach, I believe, and I'm not happy to say this statement, fridges do not have to be half empty. People will change when the fridges are completely empty, and then it's going to be too late. I just urge everybody, do the right thing. It's not easy. Never is. Never was. Never will be. But to do the right thing for the right reason at the right time is what good human beings, good Canadians should do. And that's all I urge you today. Thank you, Mr. Stronach, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
That's a great message, Vageesh, and I fully agree with that. I would say, before Roman comes up, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they start fighting you, and then you win. That was Mahatma Gandhi. So let's always keep that in mind, and I agree with you. Yesterday the message from Max in Hamilton was, we're here to stay. The truth is not going to go away. And even if we don't win on Monday a seat, we have hopes that there are potential for breakthroughs. And that's our best hope at this point. Once we get the crack in the dam of the Housing Commons, I think it could be a deluge, just like reform started in the West. We may see similar situations again. If not this cycle, you have my commitment that I will stick to this story and that I will continue to fight. This is a long-term fight. This is 20 years of fighting. And I feel fortunate that the message is spreading, and when people like Frank Stronach come on board and support us, this is one reason why we could throw this event without asking you for any entrance here. And at that point, the purple snowball, so to speak, is starting to roll. And we will continue that message and that mission after Monday. So, Roman?
Just okay if I put it on here. Hi, my name is Roman Yevseyev. I'm a candidate for Vaughan Woodbridge. Okay, sorry. Somebody tells me to sit down there. By day, I specialize in analytics and process improvement for supply chain. I also do a bit of consulting, so I am well versed in corporate life of Canada today, and also as a entrepreneur. So Mr. Stronach is a great example of what's great in Canada, and also is a great example of what we no longer have. So Mr. Stronach was able to come here in '60s and start his own business. As he explained, to start a business, he had to pop by an office, get a permit for the factory, and just keep going. Unfortunately, today, that's not possible. We have large overheads of our governments that make bureaucracy the priority of our country instead of growing the businesses. As a result, what we're seeing today, is businesses decide to leave the country rather than grow in here. And what we really need to change is, back to Mr. Stronach's point, we need to cultivate the culture of business minds, because unfortunately today among the young communities, none of them want to step into it. That's why that's why you are seeing shortages at the factory floors. That's why you are seeing shortages even among entrepreneurs. People believe in government handouts instead of themselves, and we need to change that. Another issue is taxation, of course. Unfortunately today, those who started the business, they shortly realized the game of the business today is not to grow your business, but to achieve your financial net zero, right? So many businesses today try to operate just to the point of survival instead of growing and looking at the future opportunities. Businesses are not able to hire more people, and some of them choose to do so intentionally so that they don't show any profits, which is counterintuitive for the businesses, unfortunately, but somehow this is the reality of Canada today. So I think Purple Party, the People's Party of Canada, is on the right track today to change all of that. And I want to see more young people taking their lives into their hands, stepping out, be brave, and invest into their future, not by relying on the handouts, but actually making the change themselves. So this is where People's Party of Canada will help them. So we pledge to cut down the taxes, capital gains tax. This is one of the business killers today, unfortunately. We pledge to improve the education system. We pledge to reduce the government size so that you can open your business sooner. You can operate on your own without government putting their hand into your pocket consistently. And this is where I believe Mr. Stronach is definitely creating a platform for us. So I'll definitely look into the program and make sure that we support it. Thank you.
I'll take that back. Thank you. Yeah, now I'd like to ask you a few detailed questions. I was reading Magna Man this morning in preparation. In preparation of this talk today. Let me just clip it on again. And in that, and you made the point today as well, that it takes good, in chapter 20 of the book, it says it takes good managers. What are the good qualifications of a manager? Because I consider, well, I'm a manager, I'm a senior vice president at a big company. What is a good qualification for a manager to basically direct people? Because, you know, that's what we're trying to do. We're also as teachers, right? Could you elaborate on that a bit more? How do we teach? And how are we good? How are we effective? Because that's our job too as a candidate.
Well, it always starts with the head. Okay, you gotta have the right idea.
Right.
If you haven't got the right idea, you gotta be able to motivate and to inspire people.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example. Right. We had about 440 factories worldwide, huh? Okay, so one of those days a manager came to me and said, "Frank, I want to make some more monies." I said, "That's nice to hear." I always like to see managers which want to make more monies because they get a portion of the profits, and the rest, the workers, the shareholders get also a portion if the manager makes more, right? So I said, "Look, all you have to do is just think about it, how to make more monies and be smart." Well, he said to me, You're stifling me. You don't let me grow more than 300 people, employees. Well, I said, that's right, but that doesn't still mean that you couldn't make more money. So anyway, I had to cut the conversation a little on the short side. I said, if you replace yourself, if you groom the assistant manager to be the manager, I'll give you a cut of the old factory, but I give you the monies to start a new factory. I had managers replace themselves 10 times. They made about 10 million a year. Okay, so you have to be. There's a guideline, right? If you promise something, you gotta keep it, and most of all, you gotta do things that people respect you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the key is when you start in business, you gotta ask yourself, you gotta have an affinity for something. Okay,
yeah, be passionate. Right?
So, by the way, I'm just opening up the first worldwide academy, Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurs. SAFE, Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurs, which we teach. Basically, we teach the fair enterprise system, and so fair enterprise is a forerunner of the economic charter, right? Mm-hmm. So basically, it takes good managers, and so you assist managers a bit, right? They'll get more and more experience, because I've always said there's no bad employees, only managers which are not quite capable, right? So if they're not quite capable, you want to teach them that they're more capable, right?
Right. So it starts at the head, you're saying. It's something that you can teach people by giving good examples.
But the very key is we had a very decentralized business, huh?
Yes.
For instance, we could not fire a manager. We could only fire a manager if he broke the law, and if he didn't make a profit for 2 years. Mm-hmm. Then we could fire a manager. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that means the manager's thinking new way. How can it be more innovative? You see, and there's a huge potential in every person if you give them the thing here. Be innovative. Think about it. So really, it's to inspire. But the very, very rich, they don't want to share the profit with the people. They say the people they are not stable. They are not. They easily influenced. I don't think so, right? Because every person gets up in the morning. They want to create a better life for themselves and their families. So there's a huge potential in every person. It's got to be brought to, you got to teach it in school, like you got to teach it to the kids, right? There's an enormous potential. Yeah. But anyway, Canada was such a great thing, and if you just get it back the way it was maybe 50, 60, 70 years ago, right? And but there's problems all over the world, right? What you have is that the United States was dominating the world for the last 150 years, but they're not dominating anymore, right? 50 years ago again, Wall Street was pushing, pastry was pushing business. You got to make higher profits. Unions were pushing business. You got to make. We need higher wages. So business took the easy way out. They went to China with all the technologies. So that's a major, major problem coming up. Yeah. When you look at the China, and I spend a lot of time, I have lots of factories in China, because we went where our customers went. We serviced our customers. We have lots of factories in China, and in Russia. I met Putin many, many times. I met top Chinese thing here, but there's a different philosophy. You gotta take a look at China. 10% of their population are part of the military. Another 10% of the population are part of the super bureaucrats. The 20% have it mapped out. to the 80%. You can't stop across the line, otherwise there'd be consequences. Do we want to live in a society like that? No, right? We are used to a free society, to free enterprise, but we haven't got free enterprise. The problem we have is, in the United States and Canada, about 1% holds 50% of all the wealth. The 1% till the 99%, you got all the freedom in the world. You're also free to be hungry. So we gotta educate the people. People can change it. So we gotta teach them how. There's a reason why you can't buy a house. There's a reason why you can't, right? Because you can't share the profit. Okay, there's a reason. So you can only change things if things don't function too well, right? If the economy doesn't function, then you have half-empty fridges, or they will become empty, but you need the right message. You don't want to promote destructive revolutions, right? We want to promote revolutions of the mind.
Exactly. We call it the peaceful revolution, for sure.
Unfortunately, the program, when they look, it's a lukewarm program. It doesn't hit the nail. Like, get 3 or 4 messages people really
let
understand.
me give you a specific example, what we propose. And I want your opinion on that, because you will probably have a good opinion on that. We propose to cut $15 billion for corporate welfare, we call it. Like, we want to get the budget in order, right, the first year. Not wait until maybe 5 years from now, because it's not going to happen. In fact, we could bankrupt ourselves in the process. Now, do you think that that's the right approach, to get rid of all corporate welfare? Or do you see that government has a role to play there?
Don't have government spend monies,
that we don't
subsidize,
Right. Well, that's the big problem with our system at the moment.
But really, what the thing is, why have workers haven't got the monies that they could have? They could buy a house. So you got to do why? It's not you gotta address a few, but really where it hurts the most.
That's the system of remuneration and cooperation, right?
The thing is, because they can't participate in profits. That's the most important subject you gotta get across, because there's more workers. Which worker wouldn't like to hear, like, he would get, that they would share the profits?
Yeah, well, that's clear, and in fact, I grew up in that entire environment too. You did it in your side with products. I did it my side with services, and we had owner-employees basically, and it worked.
So the message I want to get across: it's great that you're committed. It's great you're with the People's Party, right? And it might take another term, right? And you got to fine-tune the agenda, right? Where to transmit to the working class, right? Why it's deteriorating? Why the living conditions are deteriorating? It's quite obvious. Okay.
There's one thing I wanted to, it's a bit of a change, but it helps our candidates and it helps all of us, because we're proposing change, but we're getting attacked constantly for proposing that. And in a previous discussion we had over lunch, I asked you about that, because we're change makers, and people are saying, you're an idiot, or you don't know what you're doing. Tell everybody how you deal with personal attacks, because I thought your advice was so common sense and so simple that it actually helped me during that lunch and after. I thought, because everybody struggles with that, especially as an aspiring politician that swims against the grain. We are, often we get the door slammed in our face because people don't even want to talk to us. But basically, you told me, I don't know if you remember, but you said, don't focus on that. Just keep on going. Right? Focus on your message. You have a good message. Vageesh, you said it right. We can hold our head up right. We fight for what is truth and for what is right, and that's what we do. And all the distractions that are out there, and they are a lot, especially on social media. We just have to block them out, right? And that's just keep on going. I think that's your message, right? Do you have anything else to say about that?
The message would be, as Churchill said, Parliament doesn't function because there's only politicians, and he said we need a chamber of citizens to balance out the politicians. The chamber of citizens should be small business, because they all play on the same level playing field. Okay? And so small business would be the most important thing here. Give them, take the red tape off, and you gotta tell them they gotta band together.
You know what Churchill also said, which is, I like that quote a lot. You know what success is? It's going from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. So that's
well, it's what I don't. If some entrepreneurs start out and it doesn't work, look. Start out small, but if you got a problem, you got a small problem. When you start out big, you borrow a lot, you get a big problem, right? You can easily correct a small problem, right? So basically, I think I'm glad that you guys were here, the People's Party, the people running or supporting, and so hang in. I think you need. I think you, and I don't, Max Bernie is a very nice person, but he's not maybe that, he needs, but you gotta feel the pain of a thing. You gotta, what's the pain of the working class, right? What's the reason why they can't they can't buy a house, right? About 50 years ago, a single in a family, a regular, let's say, a couple, she might be a teacher, and a man might be a plumber. They could afford one wage earner could afford to buy a house. It's not even not with two-way. It doesn't. So you gotta get them the thing where it look. If they know that we gotta change that, right? That's the thing. And this where the political, the conservatives and the liberal do the same thing all over. They don't say we gotta reduce bureaucracy. They don't say they don't have any programs where the workers would share the profits.
See, Max's biggest complaint was, and that's why he left the Conservative Party, is that the system caters to the special interests and not to the interests of the people. And basically you're saying the same thing in a different way. And that's where the corruption comes in.
But it's difficult to bring it forward, right?
Well, it is.
Prove. Yeah, but you could say it, but but how, you know.
If we would break through in government, I can tell you that the battle has just begun. I can see it in other jurisdictions, okay? I come from the Netherlands originally. They elected a populist government there a couple of years ago now, and not much has changed. In fact, now that the leading party is losing support because they're not making the changes fast enough.
See, I was in Parliament. I run for Parliament. I said to, and I was very popular in Austria, I did too. But I said to the people, I only been for a short period of time. I want to have a better understanding. So I gave a welcome speech, right, in the Parliament. I think a month later I gave a farewell speech. I said I got to know everything here, and I can do more being on the outside. Okay, so the key is you gotta understand the economy. If you have an example that workers can do well, right? I mean, I created a few hundred millionaires. You know, we had women which just operating a thing. They had maybe 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 on shares in a bank account.
Yeah.
Okay, I created a wealth. You can talk with people in Aurora and Canada and so on. I would like to see the area here be known where they call it
where we create wealth.
I could only do well because we interfaced with the people. We got their trust, right? We got so again, I'm saying I would like to see that Aurora, Newmarket, the area here, the York region will be. Maybe we have to write a petition that that if, let's say, 30 or 50,000 people sign a thing that they want to have an economic charter of rights, then the governments have to listen to that, because other communities will write a petition too.
Right. Well, I think there's no disagreement here in the room. We're going to bring that forward when we can. Now, there's a question that I have in relation to that, and we talked about it already a bit. New people that go to Ottawa sometimes go with the best intentions to change that, and they can't. I would say, is this a battle of inertia and corruption against good people, or what would you characterize? Is it the battle of good versus evil, or what is? Or shouldn't I think so diabolically? How should I see it?
I know most of the people, but the politicians are trapped in the system. We have to explain it. Look, don't give them. Look, the economy. You can't leave that up to the politicians, huh?
Right.
You can't, because the very interest group, the very rich are appointed by, I would say, maybe 50% of all the super bureaucrats. The very rich don't want to have a change, huh? So don't leave they gotta realize they gotta change the bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Because they.
Yeah, you're right.
Preaching to the converted.
Yeah.
We're with you.
Yeah.
We've all hit a wall.
Yeah. But
We hit a wall.
we gotta get to people why they can't buy a house.
Yeah.
Okay, because you got to look what's in the hundreds of office buildings. It's the regulators. You know,
take the camera to the person.
The regulators take so much money out. There's nothing left for the working class. That's the co-op.
Vageesh?
Mr. Stronach, the biggest issue that we found, that I'm sure everyone will find here, what we find is that when we speak to individuals on a one-to-one basis, they understand our point, they feel that we can affect change. However, when they go outside of that room or outside of that conversation, the mainstream media does not even mention our name. And then they believe that we are irrelevant. And then they are fed this fallacy that if you vote for a group other than the ones that we're talking about, then either you're an idiot, well, they don't say it that way, but they do apply it, or you're going to get no change whatsoever. You're wasting your valuable voice. That is the biggest uphill battle, and how can a small party...
How to get around the censorship you're talking about.
$35 million, $40 million budgets for one election cycle, and our party has a budget of $1 million. How do we fight that?
But look, you got to place it, and look, you make less money now than what your grandfather made. Okay? So the reason is we make less, you got to give them the reason. If you want to make more, you're going to change it. The present parties haven't changed it for the last 60 years. It's always the same. Mm-hmm. The message hasn't gone really wide.
Hard enough yet?
Okay, it's not gone hard enough.
Yeah.
It's not gone hard enough. Well, the thing is, the program is lukewarm.
Yeah, that's what you're saying too.
Well,
we need to sharpen our axe, I guess.
So, for the sake of Canada,
I know, it's pretty fast.
For the sake of Canada, you gotta hang in, convince some others, and I think the economic charter of rights that's grown, right?
Yeah.
Will I still be alive that the economic charter will be adopted as part of the Canadian constitutions? I'm not sure, but I opened the door. You can't close the door. The economic charter will come, because if it doesn't come, we would wind up in a socialistic, communistic thing, with little freedom, right? And you got the super bureaucrats.
We have a hard stop at 1 o'clock because Frank has another engagement at 2 o'clock. The man doesn't get tired. I don't know how you do it.
Well, my mission is, I would like to see Canada being the first country in the world with an economic charter of rights. Huh? So it's a mission. I've been blessed with a good mind and good health, and I have reached most of the goals which because that's my reason to, that's my purpose, right? Okay, and I think I'm blessed. It's my purpose.
Well, and we're blessed that you support us, so thank you for spreading.
But you don't get discouraged. Hang in, we get it. I'd be very happy to work together with the group to have a mandate which really eats into the people. You gotta get into their soul.
Yes. Any other questions out here? Because we got a few times.
I was going to say, Mr. Stronach, I have mentioned.
It's Frank, not Mr. I mean, everybody says Frank.
Frank, I have mentioned, asked you if you knew Jim Pattison. Talking about trying to get visibility. Jim Pattison has all those big billboards all over the country. Billionaire. I propose that you maybe try to get a few signs up that you own and control and put the economic charter on there.
You see, you have to be very careful when you put an economic charter, right? Because I've accumulated, I've been on the boards of many universities, I've been on the boards of the New York Stock Exchange, corporate governance, right? So plus when I run Magna, I had 20 lawyers on one side of my office and 20 tax specialists on the other side. So this is a very carefully crafted, and it's left with 7 principles to find consensus. Okay, to what I brought forward, I think there's consensus without using a chainsaw.
So what would you say is the one thing you instituted in your business that brought you the most success?
Well, the special interest groups put in so many regulators. There's not enough left. They suck all out the money.
Right, but what did you do when you started? And you mentioned this earlier.
Well, when I started
building your business, what was the one rule you made for yourself that created your wealth?
Okay, I told my foreman, look, we share, huh?
So you gave him agency.
Yeah.
You made him an owner too.
Yes.
So you made everybody in your business think like you.
Yes.
Right. So this is what we need to do with our society.
Yeah, but you need the right head. You need the right rule.
Right.
Okay.
That's right.
The right rule is
the sharing rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. We've lost that.
Okay.
We lost
that. Yeah.
We've lost it.
Yeah. It's exactly what it is.
Everybody thinks that what's good for me is good for me, and fuck everybody else.
He started to think like me, right? And all the others same. They all the same.
That's right. So you want to make this better? So I'll give you what you bring. Some of it.
That's why I got the economic charter of rights. I want to say now, this is.
I didn't know this until you told me earlier today.
This is the way I came about. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's brilliant.
Okay. Well, it's.
truly is
life is a question of fate and circumstances, being at the right places at the right time with the right ingredients.
Right.
You can do a lot of things.
You did.
But I've seen hardship. As a kid, I witnessed the war, and how can a system like that, like the Nazi regime, then we were occupied by the Russian. I got exposed to the communist decrees. I got exposed to a lot of things, and when you and I was hungry when I came because I didn't have a job, I didn't have no buy food, right? So a lot of things left in here. I said, look, goddamn it, you've been blessed. So that's okay. But this is world changing, huh?
I think so.
The economic charter.
Yeah, it is. You share the wealth. The people who helped you get the wealth, you share with them.
I got more monies when I shared.
Right.
Because everybody was thinking the same way.
So this is the idea.
The secret sauce.
The more you get.
Yes.
Well, that's a good message.
But the greatest thing is because we allocated 2% for charity. We had every year we had about 500 million, which I could give to charity, huh?
Yeah. That's amazing.
This is world changing.
This is world changing.
It absolutely blows my mind.
So
that kids in school
we got in the region. We got to think that I have no agenda. Huh?
No,
I have no agenda. I have a certain age. I wanna see, because such a great country, that the future generation there's a future, huh? If
Go
we
ahead,
do not,
Patricia,
if we
after this,
do
yeah.
not share, if we do not create the economic chart, basically what got to my mind was the human chart of rights alone is not sufficient.
No, it isn't.
We gotta fortify it with an economic charter of rights. Economic charters of rights will lead to economic democracies, and economic democracies are the basis for democracy itself.
Right.
You cannot
Everybody
have democracy.
helps
Yes.
everybody.
Okay.
Rising
And we
ships,
could eliminate
rising
poverty.
tide.
Okay.
Patricia, you wanted to add something?
I just wanted to comment on this whole brilliant concept of Frank's. Is the virus that is creeping through our society is starts in the education of young people in their minds, is training them for scarcity, to feel insecure, whether it's because of the climate or anything else. So when they're in this scarcity mindset, they don't want to share. Nobody shares
the
when
golden rule doesn't want to see change in education.
no, and so we need to.
The opposite of
Okay, the
We
opposite,
need
yeah.
to start training them based on the model of abundance.
Yes.
You know, nature is abundant. Look at any seed. There's so much produced.
I mean, this
Share
whole
the
idea that
abundance.
what goes around
Yeah.
gets around has been lost.
It's funny you say that,
Right? You
Patricia.
help someone help you
The,
by helping them help
actually-
themselves.
You're right, Jim. And that issue of focus on scarcity and trying to reduce the pies is something that comes from England, actually. The Malthusians,
for everyone.
Robert Malthus came up with that, and it actually it's still permeating the Western ruling elites at this point, and that's what the whole World Economic Forum is about.
Exactly,
And
eugenicist as
the
well.
people got away from Europe, and you and I, we immigrated here because we saw the growth here, and the growth mentality is here, or was here maybe, when we were young. Now it's being taken away, and we have to push it away. That thinking is a mind virus, and actually Elon Musk talks about it like that. It's a mind virus that.
But he doesn't share the profits.
Right,
with his
well, he's got
employees.
his own problems.
Neither does Trump.
That's the secret.
Right, right.
Sharing.
Shared.
Well, when you're living in that fear-based scarcity mindset, your thinking is also narrow.
Right, but you don't need
Yes,
to worry about
well-
Your belief
scarcity
systems become
when
rigid.
you have agency.
Yes.
Yes.
Right? So you build a multi-billion-dollar
Look, economic charters of rights.
Everybody helps build it.
You let entrepreneurs grow to 300, right?
Right.
Let them be an example to think here, huh? Okay,
Right.
because small business, large business don't want to see small business succeed, because
No.
it's
But it's a greed factor.
It's a greed factor.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas if every organization institutes
We have a copy of the greed factor. See if
Is
there's
that a book?
copy there. Huh?
Is that a book? The Greed Factor?
That's
organize around the principle of profit
Yes,
sharing
yes, yes.
and offering
Greed
its
is good,
employees
according to
agency.
Gecko.
It makes them an owner of the business.
Excellent, yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah, Jen?
Go right
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I was involved with cooperatives in credit unions and things like that. And there's a large organization that gets together every year. It's worldwide. And there's a cooperative kind of Bill of Rights. And there's also
Cindy,
a cooperative...
Is there greed factor in there?
What the heck is that metric that GDP? So they wanted to change the way that GDP is actually calculated and measured with quality of life, with happiness, and they wanted to have other measures. So I just wanted to get Mr. Stronach's opinion on cooperatives, because cooperatives is
Can
actually
you look at my car?
another mechanism that helps employees share the wealth and share the growth of big companies. And there are multi-million-dollar cooperatives around the world. They're quite large in Europe. We have some very big cooperatives in Canada. So I just wanted to get your opinion on cooperatives and that whole movement as well, because they seem to have similarities in the mindset where you have to have a share. Strength in numbers.
Well-
I'm also not talking about communism, which is totally
you're
different.
talking about
Sharing ownership.
Just no. What you have is you got group, they're collective. They're capitalistic organization within the capitalistic system. Like unions, I come from a working class background. I will never participate, right? With Bas Hargrove, right? I called Bas Hargrove once, right? He was the president of the auto workers.
Right.
I said, Bas, I said, the two of us, we got a responsibility. He said, what do you mean? Well, we got a responsibility. What are we going to do to maintain jobs and create new jobs? I think we should sit down and talk about it. Fine, you know. So we had some good talks. He's a great guy, right? The thing here, right? So I said, look, profit sharing is, I have no problem to invite you in. Anyway, our employees were upset, huh? What you doing? We're happy. We don't want to have a thing here, right? Okay, but I wanted to have him. Okay, so basically, no governments can save your jobs. No unions can save your jobs. The only way you can create jobs is if you make a quality product at a competitive price. Okay?
Simple. Keep it simple.
Okay, and you can do it by profit sharing.
Right.
Okay.
Because you give everybody agency.
What's your first name again? Jim?
Jim.
Do you have a pen here? Do you got a pen here?
Yeah. Let me see if that works.
Yeah, anyone is fine, yeah. Yeah, okay. Is the red pen there?
No.
There.
This one wasn't working.
Okay.
Oh, there's a red pen. Well, we got a mini conversation in here. Everybody got to pitch in. I thought that it's a bit smaller than I would wish, but we have quality conversations here. Hopefully it strengthens you, gives you to think, and you know, we're going forward with this. Talking about books, I wanted to plug my book, A Canadian Dream it's called. It's going to come out in the next while. It's still going through editing, but yeah, it's similar to spreading the message. We all work in different ways. So.
Thank you so much.
That's nice. You got it.
I will read it. Thank you.
That's nice.
Huh? I will have a reprint done, huh?
Well, thank you for coming.
There's a new book coming out in about 2-3 weeks, the Economic Charter, extensively.
So we put it
So you
onto
have
our
my
website so
address,
all
you
of our
can-
members know
Yeah, maybe.
which candidates have signed pledges and who to support in the upcoming election. I'll bring some over if you'd like to sign a pledge.
I'm not a candidate, and I am a member.
My address, probably my address not on there.
Yeah. Is your phone number done?
Yeah, my phone number and my email.
Yeah, your phone number. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Haben Sie einen Job für meinen Sohn Richard?
Ja,
Sie haben ihn kennengelernt.
What do you think of that?
Erstes Jahr Universität.
He should work in a greenhouse.
I'll give him a copy when it's done.
He would be absolutely good with that.
Okay, just give Cynthia thinks she arranged it.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thanks for coming. Yeah. Yeah, it's good.
So guys hanging in.
Too bad you don't get
You need
more voters.
more of the effective. It's got to get to the soil. It's got to get to every employee. It's got to be grassroots.
I agree. I think that we teach kids.
Well, that's one thing, and
all kinds of
the
things
beginning
that are
is
useful.
any enterprise always the super hard. It's
Your
like
message
taking off, right?
about
Get off
empowering
the ground.
employees
Once you're in orbit,
in
it
a
goes easy.
capitalist structure makes everybody a capitalist.
That's the capitalistic structure that's harnessing.
Right.
I live up below 300. It's free.
I'll ask him to.
Free enterprise.
Can you turn it off?
But it gets thing you got to share.